File Temple is one of the most important and very unique temple in Upper Egypt, especially in Aswan Governorate. This temple, which dating back to the Greek-Roman period, started during the Ptolemaic period and continued during the Roman period. Most of the kings of Egypt during this time they tried to add and restore this temple. The temple is very unique because it's dedicated to the most famous goddess in ancient Egypt, goddess Isis. And also, it's a very important temple because it's the last temple uh, stopped working or the last temple closed by the Romans after closing all the temples and all over the country. And in the ancient Egyptian religion, this temple continued to the end of the Roman period where the priests were living here and make this kind of uh, religion and dedicate this temple to Isis and keep worshipping Isis in this temple. The history of the temple started with late period of ancient Egypt when the king Basmatic first built his own temple dedicated to Isis on this island, which is called Philae. And as you can see, close to Philae, there is a small island which is very respected in ancient time and it's very famous more than Philae itself because in this island, which was called Biga, it's a Nubian name for this island. On this island, Isis, for the last time, see her husband and gather all the pieces of her husband, and the last piece of her husband found here on this island, Piga. For this important of Isis in this area, they dedicated this temple on Philae Island to goddess Isis as a kind of respecting to her, and they refused to dedicate the temple to the god Khnum, the god of the whole Aswan area, which it was the first province of Upper Egypt. The city of Aswan was very famous in ancient time because it was the main center for trade in Upper Egypt. And even this temple was considered one of the most famous temple in ancient time. The ancient name of this island was called Balak, and Balak it's mean the boundary. Actually, this boundary it's not mean the boundary of Egypt, but it's the sacred boundary. The ancient Egyptian believed that under this island and the group of the islands around, there is the sources of the river Nile. And actually, a very famous story happened during the Islamic period, which is called Anas al-Wud. This man who loved the very famous and richy girl, uh, which was believed that it's the daughter of the king of Egypt, who refused to marry her, so she fled away to hear where he found her, and it was a very important part of Alf Layla Layla, Thousand Nights and Night stories. The temple next to Basmatic first, the many kings start to build some pieces of this temple, restore this temple, especially Nectanebo, the king of the 30th dynasty, and starting from the Ptolemaic period and Roman period, this building in front of you, it's dating back to this time when the kings of Egypt during that time they start to care about this temple and clean it, enlarge it, restore it, and so on. The first king of this period, the Greek-Roman period, who built this temple is Ptolemy the second. This map in front of you show you the original island of Philae. Actually, the temple was originally was built on this small island, which is called Angelica, in front of you in the middle. And Angelica, it was a very small island, and in front of it is that very famous sacred island of Biga. And because this temple faced a big problem when the Egyptian built the in 1898 the old Aswan Dam to the north of it, and later they added the high dam to the south of it. So the water in this small lake between the two dams increased very much and uh, just flooded through the temple and cover most of the temple. So by the effort of UNESCO, the UNESCO starting from 1970, they start to save this temple by the help of many countries and Egypt itself to save this temple and transport it from Angelica to another small island so close to the original island, Angelica, and had the same shape, almost the same shape like the other one, and it's called now Philae Island. So this map show you on the top the old dam of Aswan and also the very famous small islands in around Philae. This dam is the old dam, the old Aswan Dam, and it's to the north to Philae Island. This dam, which built in 1898 by Sir William Willicock, the British engineer and the designer who designed and built this dam, it's used to build this dam to control the flood of the river Nile and also to get electricity, enough electricity to support Aswan city with electricity. But the dam, they rebuilt it and enlarged it and get higher in 1912 and 1930. So when they increased the height of the dam, the level of the water behind the dam increased, especially during the flood time, and our temple, Philae temple, used to cover by the water through during these kind of floods, which happen sometimes and increased very much to cover the whole temple of Philae. Later, in 1960, they start to build another dam higher than the original one of, but now to the south of Philae temple. This dam, which started built in 1960 and finished in 1970, is the high dam and opened for the visitors and for working in 1971 during the time of the President Sadat, but it's built during the time of President Gamal Abdel Nasser. This huge dam is considered one of the biggest in all over the world, and because of the building this dam to the south of Philae, and because Philae now became just in the middle between the two dams in this small lake between the old dam and the high dam, so the temple suffered for a long time because of the leveling of the water, which increased in the lake and covered the whole temple. And as I mentioned before, by the effort of UNESCO, they clean the temple and remove it from the original island to Philae Island, which we visit the temple now on it. This photo show you how the temple looks like. The water completely covered the majority of the temple, and that's after building the old dam in 1989, and especially during the flood season. And after building the high dam, as you can see, the during the flood time, the level of the water increased as usual and covered the whole temple. And actually, the tourists they used to use a small sailing boat to visit the temple during that season. By the effort of UNESCO, they built a huge dam uh, of steel around the temple and they start to clean it from the water and the mud and also start to cut the temple. They cut the temple into 14,000 pieces of rock and transport it to the bank of the River Nile until they prepare the new island to rebuild the temple on it, and after that they remove the blocks from the bank to the new island and rebuilt the temple with the original angles and in the original size and in the original place like the original one. That work taking about 10 years from 1970 to 1980 and opened for the visitor in 1981. Here is the dam that built by the effort of UNESCO to clean the temple and It taken a long time to remove the water and remove the mud around the dam and cut this temple into blocks. The history of the temple, again, as mentioned here, it show you the history of the temple starting from Basmatic until Ptolemy II, the first king of the Greek-Roman period who start to build the building that we visit nowadays. Nowadays, the visitors they use motorboat to cross the River Nile from the bank of the River Nile from Aswan city to visit this temple. Just in front of the harbor of the motorboats, the first temple we're going to see and visit is this one of the Nectanebo first. This is the earliest building on this island. The king Nectanebo I of the 30 dynasty built this small temple, which looks like a mummy. The mummy is the birth house, not making birth inside or the ladies giving birth inside alone, but it's a kind of building used to give the royalty and for the king and represent the king as the son of the Egyptian goddess Hathor or Isis to give him the royalty and give him the right to be the king of Egypt, even if he's a foreigner, not Egyptian. So this Mamizi belonged to Nectanebo first, the 30 dynasty. The building, as you can see, it's completely damaged except some columns in very good condition. And these kind of columns, we call it the Hathoric columns, which is decorated with the head of Hathor, the goddess Hathor, on the top of it. In front of this small temple of Nectanebo, we have the first open court or the outer court. The court should be built behind the pylon as usual. But here we have the open court out of the pylon, and that because the original shape, which looks like a pin, the original shape of the original island, like looks like this pin. So they found it no place, not enough place inside the temple to build the open court. So they added it outside. They built it outside to make it easy for many people to watch the festivals and to make their ceremonies to worship Isis and other gods. This open court, as you can see, a big part of it is unfinished, especially the columns to the left side. They are unfinished. You can make easily comparison between these capitals of columns and the finished one to the left side. You can easily recognize that they are not finished. Also, on the walls of these columns, you can see some black marks. These black marks, which is very clear on both sides, show you the level of the water during the flood time. The water make these marks by the time until they يعني, clean the temple from the water and save it by the effort of UNESCO. We have here about 31 columns on both sides. Just beside the right row of the columns of the open court, we have a very small destroyed temple for a Nubian god. It's called Arsinophis. Actually, it was not Egyptian god, but it still was very famous in this area of our Egypt. Just behind, also the colonnaded to the right side, we have a very small temple for the god Imhotep. Imhotep was the designer of the step pyramid of Dosor, and during the third dynasty, worshipped later and became the god of medicine in ancient time. This is a very unique temple dedicated to this god, and this temple dated back to the time of Ptolemy IV, who built this temple and also dedicated the temple to Osiris and Isis side by side by. Here is a scene from this small temple of Imhotep, represent him set on his throne in front of the king Ptolemy, who made the offering for him. And as you can recognize, Imhotep in this scene is representing without a crown above the head. That because he was original a human being, not original a god, but became a god later. Now we will go on to visit the open courts. As you can see, the open court, it's very huge. Just in the middle, in front of us, we have the Nilometer, which used to measure the level of the water in the River Nile. And also there is an altar in the middle used by the common people who used to worship the goddess Isis here to make offering in front of it. Um, and around the open court and just in the walls behind these courts behind the columns we have scenes, a lot of scenes, which is very traditional scenes representing the kings making offering before the gods or praying before the gods. The pylon. This is the first pylon. In this temple, we have two pylons. The first pylon, which dating back to the King Ptolemy 12th. This pylon, it's very huge. It's not the biggest one, but it's a completed one and in very good condition. Actually, we have two doors here. The door in the middle belonged to Ptolemy the 12th, but this small door to the left side belonged to the King Nectanebo, who built this small temple outside. And we believe that there was a temple here, completely huge temple, dating back to the time of Nectanebo, completely destroyed except this door and small walls around. So they keep it during the Ptolemaic period and they continue building around to and make it as a small part of and or a small entrance inside this pan, which date back to the Ptolemaic period. The scenes on the walls are very traditional, representing, as you can see, the scene to the left, representing the king smiting his enemies, who kneeling in front of him and raising their hands, asking mercy from the king. He used this mass to smite them and punish them. To conquer Egypt or to make a trouble to Egypt and give this enemies as a kind of a gift to the goddess Isis who stands in front of him. Isis here is representing on both sides to the right and left of the main entrance in the middle. On the top, we have scenes representing the king making offering to the gods, all of them seated gods, and the king standing in front of them making offering, different kind of offering before them. Here we have another gate. This gate built by the king Ptolemy II and connect the temple by another temple outside. In front of this temple, where originally there were two obelisks, one of them nowadays under the water, and another one transported to Italy by Giovanni Belzoni, who discovered many temples and many tombs in Egypt, especially. Uh, this man discovered the Abu Simbel temple and the tomb of Seti II. To the left, this is a photo for the this kind of obelisk which taken from here from this in front of this temple Philae. To the right side, this photo show you this scene which is representing the goddess Isis. In front of her the god Horus, the sun, and it should be the king making offering to both of them. And also we can see a small cross carved here on the wall dating back to the early Coptic period when the Coptics used this temple to live inside. Also, like many other temples in Upper Egypt, flooding away and just try to keep their lives, keep themselves alive, fleeing away from the Roman soldiers and from Alexandria, and use this temple to live inside and carved this early cross on the wall of these temples in Upper Egypt. But because a huge number of them were living here inside this temple, so we have a lot of crosses everywhere inside in this temple on the walls. We have also here two lion statues dating back to the Roman period, protecting the temple in front of the first pylon. The second open court is just behind the first pylon, and it's dating back to the time of the King Ptolemy the eighth, and it's just behind the first pylon. It's actually smaller than the first open court out. Now we are inside this second open court, and as you can see, it's much smaller, and the scenes on the walls are very traditional, representing the king making offering before the gods or praying before the gods. This building to the right side, it's called the Mamizi, and it's dating back to the time of Ptolemy the Eighth.